George. George accelerates down the lane. Off the window. Hot damn! The Clippers take the lead. Counted on a foul.
So last night, the Clippers played a very good game. I thought it was just a very good game overall. Not much defense in the game, but it was a good game overall. And arguably, to me, it had to be the Clippers' best win of the season so far. Their biggest win of the season. They ended a 8-game winning streak by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Shout out to Donovan Mitchell and and Garland. Donovan Mitchell's seemed like he's dropping 30 like every game. Seemed like to me. Seemed like he might really just be in the MVP voting this year. I mean, seriously, because he's really playing really well. Gotta give him credit. But shout out to the Clippers too. Shout out to Paul George. He played really good. He got that and one at the end. It was a very interesting game for the Leafs, but to me, I gotta be objective about some things, but I gotta give them credit in some areas too. Now, the areas I really liked with the Clippers in last night's game, they kept fighting, and that's the one area I always look at with the Clippers. Did they fight throughout? Did they find themselves in a situation where they were down a few points and didn't panic? Everything just kept flowing. The offense kept flowing. They didn't get stagnant with the offense. They kept everything how they were supposed to. And just, they kept doing what they do best. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on themselves, trying to score, trying to, make the right pass if possible, get the highest quality shot, which usually for them is a 3, but they lived by it last night and it worked, for the most part. And, just, looking at last night's game, like I said, those are some good things that I've seen from the Clippers, and I'm glad that Paul George had a good shooting, good efficiency shooting night. It was also good to see Kawhi sitting on the sideline, being there with the team, stuff like that. The report says he's out indefinitely, but, he's progressing very well, so who knows when he'll come back. I mean, it could be in the next 3-4 games. It could be a little bit after, maybe a little bit before. You never know, so we'll see how that pans out there. But the one thing I was a little dispirited by with the Clippers in this game. Glad they did pull out the victory. That's the main thing. They got the victory. That's the main thing. But, looking at this game there again, I see the Clippers living by that 3-point shot a lot. And I don't really like that about the Clippers. I don't feel like that's a recipe for success. I don't feel like living by that 3-point shot is going to give you, what you need in regards to, being a championship team. Because, as I said, when the jump shot is falling, that's fine. But when it's not falling, you don't really have anybody, to me, that wants to be aggressive enough on a continuous basis to make up for that deficiency when it becomes one. Because if you play a team in a 7-game series and 2 out of, let's say, 1 or 2 games, let's say 2 games out of that 7-game series, that jump shot is not falling. And if you keep shooting them and keep living by the jump shot, you're going to end up losing that series, and you're going to act like you don't know why. And the Clippers would know why, because everybody knows you live by 3, you die by it. You don't have the Splash Brothers on your team. You know what I'm saying? You don't have shooters like that. If you had shooters like that, then okay, it might be different, because they're like Steph is the best shooter of all time. Clay might be the second best shooter of all time, or somewhere in that mix. So my point is, when you have shooters of that caliber, I guess it's a lot different. But everybody don't have Splash Brothers on their roster, even though the Warriors are not doing the best. But Stephen Curry did have a big game of the night, so big shout out to him. But still, my point is, we're not, of course, nobody has players on their team or shooters on their team like the Splash Brothers. So when you're playing against other opponents, you can shoot very well, but so can they. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, to me, like when you look at last night's game, Donovan Mitchell and Garland and Kevin Love, and they were just putting up shots so easily. You know what I'm saying? It's like it wasn't hard for them to score at all. And see, that's something that I don't like about the Clippers. You've got to make it a little bit more difficult for these teams. You can't give them what they want offensively and expect your offense just to override theirs. Last night it worked, but in a lot of instances when you're playing really good teams, like if they had to play Cleveland again, Cleveland would probably beat them, the way they're constructed right now, unless Kawhi Leonard's back by then, because like I said, Cleveland shoots a lot of threes, but Cleveland's a younger team. They're not projected to win a championship. They play, based upon their talent. They don't have chemistry like that because, Donovan Mitchell, this is his first season there with them. Now, Garland and them, they have a little bit of chemistry because they played the last couple seasons before, Mitchell got there and everything. So there's somewhat of chemistry there, but Evan Mobley and them, they got a really good team out there in Cleveland. So, definitely shout out to them. But, my point is, as I said, the Clippers have to be a little bit more defensive sound. And I know that'll come back when Kawhi Leonard's there because defensively they'll be a lot better with him on the floor. There's be a lot better team anyway with him on the floor. I think with Kawhi Leonard on the floor last night, hypothetically, if Kawhi Leonard was out there, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers by 10 plus points easily. I mean, just easily. I mean, because first of all, like I said, Cleveland is scoring and putting up a lot of points, but defensively, against the Clippers, they couldn't do anything against the Clippers. And I like the fact that Terrence Mann, got a good run. He scored in double digits. I think he had like 16 points. The Clippers had like 6 people in double figures. I believe Norman Powell was one of them too, I believe. And all the starters, I believe, is in double figures. So, I mean, it was a good offensive game, from what I saw. But, there again, the Clippers need to pick up on that defensive end more. You can't give teams what they want offensively the way you gave Cleveland what they wanted and come out with the victory a lot of times, because a lot of times that's not going to happen. Now, like I said, Paul George hit a and one last night, got him going. He was in the rhythm and everything. He was. But at the same time, the reason why the Clippers look like more of a Jekyll and Hyde team, because you can't sustain that playing that way. You've got to have an identity when you're out there on the floor. And to me, the Clippers don't have an identity still. They're still just a supremely talented team with all these pieces that they can throw at you from different angles and score at a high level, because they have so many weapons to play with. But chemistry-wise, they don't have an identity, because when you watch them on the floor, it's like some of the players on Cleveland, they shouldn't be getting off shots the way they could. I mean, the way they were so easily. I mean, Evan Mobley was playing very good against the Clippers. I mean, in the paint, he was getting what he wanted. 17 feet. He was knocking that down some in the beginning. I mean, Kevin Love was looking at a lot of, in the beginning of the games, especially Kevin Love, he had quite a few wide open threes where nobody was even near him. You see what I'm talking about? So it's like little things like that can come back to hurt you when you're playing really good teams. And like I said, the Clippers, sometimes they go into games, I feel like, where they look at it, we're just going to outscore this other team. We're not really going to worry about defense. I mean, and when you watch them play sometimes, that's the vibe that you get, because that's what you see, and like last night's game really dictated that to me. I didn't see no defense from either team. I saw both teams just shooting threes back and forth, going up down the court, both teams on fire. And it be like that sometimes. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but what I'm saying is the Clippers, if you're looked at as a championship team, you need more of an identity in regards to who you are and what we need to expect every time you step on the floor, no matter who's on the floor. And that's the problem with the Clippers that I see that can hurt them long term. But of course, that falls on Ty Lue as well. So, he will, he'll have to try to fix that. Now, I didn't see Brandon Boston last night. I was expecting to see him play in a game like this, because I felt like, his type of energy would be good against a team like Cleveland. He didn't get any PT last night, but I was glad to see Luke Kennard out there too. He chipped in with a few points, a few big shots himself. I know he came off like a chest injury or something like that he was having. Everything is okay with that, which is really good. Like I said, Terrence Mann played good. I mean, he played good, defense. He caused a few turnovers. He was right up in his defender. He was right up on the guys as a defender. And like I said, he had a few, dunks, fast break points. He got to the rim very well, stuff like that. Those are the type of things you want to see. And as I said, those two players, Luke Kennard and Terrence Mann, should be the two players that they have to have come off the bench every single time. I don't care who Ty Lue wants to bring off the bench with this team to, make them a better team. Those two players need to come off the bench every single time. Every night, those two players are the main ones that come off the bench. And whoever else Ty Lue wants to add to that, that's who he can add to it. But I just feel like those two right there, when they're in the game together, I feel like the game changes, because you got one in Terrence Mann who can play defense, who is a ball hawk, and he will get up in somebody. He'll be a good, he's a really good defender. he's one of their best defenders to me, who's actually sitting on the bench. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, I like Terrence Mann's energy. His energy is always good. His upside is always good when he's out there on the floor. And like I said, I like the fact that he just fights and claws. He's very fearless the way he plays. And I always say, guys who play fearless, they've got to find minutes in your rotation. So to me, he should always be a main guy that comes off the bench along with Luke Kennard. I mean, Luke Kennard is definitely one of the best three-point shooters in the league, has been the last couple years, and he's made a lot of big shots for the Clippers. I'm talking a lot of huge shots, especially last year. I mean, he made some really big splash plays for this Clippers team last year. So I think he needs a lot more playing time because he's just one of those valuable pieces to me. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like how he plays fits the way Ty Lue really wants, him to come off the bench and wants him to be exertive coming off the bench. And he is, you know what I'm saying? He has that green light kind of when he comes off the bench, and he's fearless too. So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Those two players have to come off the bench every single night to me. That's my opinion. Whoever else, like I said, I feel like Brandon Boston, Amir Coffey, all the other ones as well. But I mean, at the same time, I feel like those two should always get playing time off the bench because they give you something that other players on the Clippers can, but at the same time, they know the system. They know the culture of the Clippers better than Robert Covington and Norman Powell. They know the system better than those guys. So to me, those guys, Norman Powell can score better than Terrence Mann and Luke Kennard, but at times in certain games, he's not going to make more of an impact with his scoring because, as I said, when the Clippers are not really playing defense and they're just going back and forth with teams, just putting up points, you're still going to lose a lot of those games because you don't really have a defensive identity. But with, Terrence Mann on the floor, it makes it a little bit more difficult with teams because Terrence Mann is a hustler on the floor. You know what I'm saying? He plays with that competitive fearlessness in him on the defensive end and the offensive end. And that's the type of player that you need. So if you add him on the floor with Luke Kennard, a shooter, then you add Robert Covington, maybe throw Norman Powell in there, of course, off the bench, and then add a little bit of Brandon Boston with a little bit of Amir Coffey in between. Now you have something going. So, I mean, that's just an idea, but even still, big win for the Clippers last night. And hopefully they keep it moving. They got the Lakers next. I believe that's Wednesday. So that'll be another big, showdown type game. So hopefully be nothing but fireworks in that one as well. And can't wait to see it. Now, like I said, shout out to the Clippers for getting a big win. Still got some things to improve on, but time is in your favor. So just make it happen. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section. Check out my other videos if you haven't. And hey, till next time.